Welcome to the 29th episode of the Holistic Human Podcast, where we share the secrets of bringing out our inner potential and living the best life. Okay, and today we have our guest today, Dr. Anthony Searles. Dr. Anthony Searles, he believes that we have an unlimited potential within us and we can do almost anything that we want to achieve in life. And I believe he's a testimony of what he believes in, and he is also a testimony of peak performance. He is a medical doctor, he's a lawyer, and he has a PhD in chemistry. He's a world-class track athlete in the masters category, often ranked in the top 5. He entered the Who's Who among successful Americans and is the Charlotte Citizen of the Year by the Black Women's Caucus. He has many talents and wears many hats. His education background includes degrees in medicine and law. And pertinent to our podcast today, I'd like to highlight that his PhD doctoral studies in analytical/physical chemistry has a focus in quantum mechanics. As quantum mechanics opens the doors to understand much, to allow us to understand much about spirituality and the biofield, it's very pertinent to our subject today. And Dr. Anthony, he creates waves in medicine. In sports medicine, he was the ringside physician in professional and amateur boxing. He is involved in forensic and correctional medicine, and he is a nationally certified expert in toxicological drug analysis. He is involved in clinical studies and research, and his work resulting in FDA market approval for a new drug testing methodology. In family medicine, he is the medical correspondent for a local Charlotte television broadcast. His experiences and extensive knowledge has him invited as a roundtable speaker/panelist before the Congressional Black Caucus on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where he spoke on alternative drug treatment modalities from a holistic perspective. That's one of the longest introduction I ever had for a guest. And anything I missed, Dr. Anthony Searles?
No, you took care of it more than enough. Appreciate it. I try to stay humble. And but Socrates say, all I know is that I know not. The more I know, the more I realize what I don't know. A lot of folks don't understand that part. Yep. So you remember last time we talked, I could just start going on and on. But this was something I started to post the other day. It was probably about 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was driving. And I was thinking, because part of this unlimited thinking thing is being able to tap into what I call infinite intelligence. 50 years ago, I was exposed to this thing, life force. Infinite intelligence. And basically that kind of was open, say, with Socrates for me, where Socrates said, we just remember, okay, and I think one of the questions, somebody was talking about past lives. All of this knowledge we have is something, just a collection from past lives. So anyway, about 30 years ago, I was driving and I was thinking and I was saying, gosh, of all the things that I know, when I really break it down, everything will derive from just common sense, regardless of how complicated it is. Once I fully understand it, I said 95% of it. I could break it down, whether it's law, medicine, science, mathematics. It will all break down to just common sense once I really start to understand it. But then I said, the God, divine master, the creator of the universe, whatever, has created a perfect universe. So probably 100% of all knowledge makes common sense. However, we just have not gotten to that level of understanding to connect the dots to make that little 5% that doesn't make common sense, if that makes sense. Anyway. I wasn't planning to talk about that, but I guess that just popped in my head.
Yes, and I believe it was Richard Feynman that said that we need to make whatever we understand applicable and understandable to a 5-year-old. That's a mark of knowledge and wisdom. And just now when you brought up Socrates and you mentioned like the more we know that we don't know. And that's a real hallmark of a humble person that in the Asian context, we talk about the person with no knowledge, they hang like a paddy field with rice. The more knowledge it has, the deeper it bends over in humbleness. And that's what we should embody as well. And okay, I think the first major question that most people would have is that what made you take up law and medicine at the same time? One is already enough for a lifetime, and you pile both of them together.
It goes back to an early age. Somewhere probably about the 4th grade. I was on television, and there was a television program talking about Socrates, who had all the knowledge in philosophy, mathematics, law, government, blah, blah, blah. And I was so amazed with his story, because what they got Socrates for was, what they say, corrupting the minds of the youth. But really, what the elite were getting Socrates for, because I feel like some people like to espouse their knowledge and eliteness, some people with money, and other people with their knowledge to put people down. So what Socrates was doing was going through the streets of Athens, telling the elite and the aristocrats, you're putting people down as if you have all of this knowledge. And he said, nothing. He said, I'm the most knowledgeable man out here, yet I know nothing, and you're acting blah, blah. And so I thought it was so remarkable that they imprisoned Socrates, and they gave him the option. Just shut up, or you're going to need to drink this hemlock and die. And he chose to drink the hemlock. And I said, gosh, that is... So anyway, things like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, that always intrigued me. And thoughts have always come to me from outside of me, as I said. When I mentioned before about the infinite, I believe that there's a way to plug into this infinite warehouse of knowledge. Say we're way back in the early days, go back 50 years when I first started computer programming, used to have peripherals. You'd have the individual laptops. You had to plug into what they call the CPU and blah, blah. And so that's the way I used to envision back 50 years ago, was that remotely there's some central database of knowledge that is out there. And if we can find some way to mentally connect to it. So anyway, coming back to like law of medicine, folks like Socrates, Aristotle, blah, blah, Descartes, these kind of folks always intrigue me. And I've said, I would like to seek that level of knowledge. And this is probably important. Slow me down if I'm just rambling. But my mother died when I was in the 1st grade. I wasn't always a good student. Kindergarten, 1st grade, teachers used to send notes home from school. Anthony won't do his work, blah, blah, blah. He's struggling, etc. My mother used to cry, say, why don't you do your work? And I would tell her, because I want to play. I didn't care about any ABCs and counting. I was I said, that was boring. I said, I wanted to play. So anyway, in 1963, it was that 1961, which would be 63 years ago, she died. And I always thought that at that young age that, when you watch TV, someone dies, but maybe in another show, you'll see that person back alive again. And so spiritually, so she's always been with me spiritually. And so that's where it kind of moves in, because I think our original talk was going to be on astral stuff. And so I've always been, from a young age, been connected to this spiritual self, because so much that I've accomplished, I believe it has been through her, through the spirit. So anyway, when she died, and I hadn't done my work, and she used to cry, promised that morning when she died, I said that I would start doing my work. And blah, blah, etc. And so all of that was, I still like to play. But I'll do my work too.
It all makes
but anyway, that was it. Was just really and that was the thing, what I was looking for too at that young age, was searching for, like, let's say those ancient philosophers. What was the meaning of life? So somewhere between about 4th grade and 8th, 9th grade, I was more thinking like a philosopher and having all of this doctor, lawyer, scientist, mathematician, blah, blah, blah. And then I got about 8th grade and started realizing the reality of society, that they don't have use for those, kind of people now, But anyway, that's kind of where it is. And when I look at, it's like medicine to help people, but then there was something, my real true strengths are in, I'm more of an entrepreneur. At medicine, law, that was probably for my mother. I'm more of a free spirit. You got what I'm saying there?
Yes, yes.
That was like for her. That was for her. So we will change, because I could just keep on going.
And you
but
made
I kind
her
of
proud.
give you a feel.
You made her proud.
Okay. Yes. So that's kind of it. Yeah. I just and to really I get up and say that in life. Okay, let me see if I can remember this. Being in medicine over 40 years, that it was something that I said, that life ain't fair and there are no guarantees. And so in measurement, we always want to, we're talking about success. I like to have 2 categories of what I consider to be success. My ultimate success is something that I am in control of. And then I have this other thing that I'm going after, that other people, be other influences. Like to say, you never know what your health, blah, blah, you never know what might happen in life. But to have that one thing that regardless of what happens, your health, your success is determined by that variable. I have a good buddy of mine who's a physician. He always say, once you have that, from then on out, anything you do in life, you're playing with house money, like at the casino. When you're up, you can just have a good time. You're already ahead of the house. You can just play, and to me, that's the ultimate way to live life. That you have already achieved everything, and that's something that's within.
So that's once you achieve your own personal definition of success, then you have the capacity to dial in on what society, what your family, what your community expects of you. Are you saying that?
Yes, and this is something else, because like you say, ideas just start popping in.
Oh, okay.
But this is something else that people will find so true. I want to say the things that I say, don't just take it from me. You just have to go home and let it simmer and see if it takes for you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
When now this is the beauty of this. Is when you already have everything you want, it's a lot easier to get anything else out there that you desire. And I'll give a very good example. You ever need any money from the bank?
Yeah.
If you're looking good and you got plenty, the banks are beating down your door trying to give you money.
Yeah.
But just wait until you need some money and you go to the bank. What happens? The bank, you can't get a meeting, you can't get blah blah. And so that's the way I like to look at it. Life, if one is already fulfilled, anything else that they desire, the life will be open to not to give it to them, but it is just be available for them. And I look at it just like the bank. When you need money from the bank, but the bank is beating down your door to just give you all the money you want when you don't need any money.
Okay. If I may paraphrase that for the audience, would you say that is once you have fulfilled like the Maslow hierarchy, right? The physiological, the safety, the belonging, the self-esteem, when you reach the top tier of like self-actualization, when you have already fulfilled everything, then whatever you want just comes easily.
Exactly. That's exactly. And those things you named are truly under your control.
Wow, amazing to hear that. I think the audience will be so excited to hear this.
Those are the things that people have under their control to fulfill all of those things you named, in my opinion.
Okay. I'd love to cycle back to that. But first, I think this crowd here is spiritual. Just now when you mentioned that we all knowledge is available in the universe and we just have to tune into it. We just have to tap into it. And then we have all the knowledge from our forefathers. There is this, I think, was it Carl Jung that says there's this collective consciousness and we all have access to it. And I'm just wondering, what is your method of getting access to that? And we all would love to know.
Okay, what I mentioned as a child growing up, these things came to me naturally, but I just couldn't explain it. So my freshman year of college, along with the physics, chemistry, advanced calculus, blah, blah, I took an elective in philosophy. And it just so happened that my professor was also the author of the book and renowned philosopher and et cetera. So there were 3 readings. This was the first semester of my freshman year. And it was coming back to Socrates, but it was Plato's Republic, Allegory of the Cave.
Yes.
And it was just letting me know, like I say, how important it is to make sure that what we see is real. It was the person was in the cave and seeing the reflection, shadows, blah, blah, but that was his reality, but he's really was just looking at shadows and this and that, et cetera. Yes. But this was the one that really started opening my head to tapping into the process of tapping into the infinite intelligence. It was mental. Where Socrates took the slave boy who was ignorant, no knowledge of mathematics, geometry, et cetera. And he told somebody, he said, I'm going to show you where knowledge is we already know everything. It's just by asking the right questions. Like I see when we talked about as far as the making common sense, blah, blah. And he said, I'm going to ask this little boy, what's the area of a square that's twice the size of the original square? And, and they went through all this process. And then I was so amazed because I was going through the process myself as a freshman. And when he got to the end, he gave him the answer. And I said, it turned out that the boy had given him Pythagoras' theorem. X squared plus y squared equals c squared to give him the dimensions of the new. And I said, gosh, that explains, that there is a pathway that we already have infinite knowledge within us. We just have to ask the right questions to seek it out.
Wow. Then
lastly, this is the one that took me into the quantum state, was Descartes. This was still that first semester, and I read the Descartes in his meditations. And what Descartes talked about was dreams and reality and illusions. And he talked about how often have you awakened to only realize that it was a dream, but you thought it was real. And then vice versa. And he said that everything that comes to us comes through our senses. But how often has your senses been fooled that you saw something that really wasn't there, or you heard something that wasn't there? So that you can't have 100% reliability on your senses. There's so much of what we consider to be reality could be an illusion. And that's a lot of what quantum says. And he said, and this is what got me, and that's why I say that anything I say today for people to take it home, before you put something in your head, he said that only through deliberate doubt can we come to the truth of whatever there is as possible as far as any type of reality. Because that's the whole thing going through life, is in order to make these things happen, that success thing, we have to make sure that we're dealing with true data points. You got to check, double check, triple check to make sure, because everything that's coming, our senses can be fooled. What I see from over in this position is different from what I see here and this. And the name of my group is the total perspective concept. That's what that is to make sure that whatever we're looking at, whatever we're taking from this world, we're looking at it from the true perspective. And that's one of the most difficult things, in my opinion, is to make sure that things are observed from the Because you can't, how can you navigate if you don't have true coordinates? Okay.
I'm muted. Going back to the allegory of the cave, sometimes when we get in touch and then we have that view, whether it's our own energetic body, whether it's the biofield, whether it's spirituality, we get outside the cave and we get to see that really there's more to it than what we understand about reality. And we try to bring it back to people that we know, to the masses or the people who are chained in the cave, and we tell them this, what the world outside is. And they understand and says that you're crazy. There's no such thing. I'm happy with the shadows playing on the wall. So don't try to change my paradigm. And I find that just very interesting. That thought came up. And I love what you say about deliberate doubt, about checking about whatever information gets fed to us. It's important that we question them. And just as Buddha said, don't take my word for it. Everything, check it out, experience it yourself to see the truth of it. And I think that's important for us to fact check and also to feel things internally and not take the surface value in anything we learn. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. I agree 100% with that. Is when I started my journey over 50 years ago, that was the prime rule that I realized that I had to just make sure, okay, I started to post this the other day on Facebook. Make sure your thoughts are your thoughts. But I realized a lot of stuff I post, people are not ready for. I put it up, then I took it down. But that people don't understand. One can think that these are my thoughts that are coming out of my head, but they truly are not your thoughts. You have to make sure that my thoughts are truly, that they're true, that they're my thoughts and things, and I have to be open that something that I believe is true today, evidence may come up tomorrow to disprove it, and I am not so stuck. I can't let it go. I got to realize that this is a dynamic process that we start going quantum and all of that. It gets fuzzy. And you may come to find out that all of this was just an illusion, that I got to readjust it, but I don't allow that to scare me. For some people, that might scare them to know that, but to me, it's intriguing. Mm-hmm. And that's where the true power to becomes is being willing to let go and to
accept new evidence.
Yep. Accept new evidence, and to accept new evidence, one has to be flexible. Some people are stuck.
Yes.
Yeah, some people are stuck in their own beliefs, that, I have to believe this. And me, I'm up here, I just learned at an early age is that, and that's it. That was one of my original goals, was to be in search of the truth. Not my truth, not your truth, but the truth, and being willing to accept the truth, whatever it is.
It pays to have a cup half full, and then we can accept new things. If our cup is always full, then we are fixed, and then we can't accept any new things, and that's the only reality that we have. Yeah. Okay. And dear audience, if you have any comments, any questions, do put in the chat, and then I'll read it out as we go along. And I do understand that your fascination with the philosophers, your fascination with Socrates, who is actually a polymath, something like later on it will be Leonardo da Vinci, and you're that sort of person, marrying different realms of things, and that's probably how you got interested with the quantum mechanics as well, law, science, and then trying to marry them together in a way. And then now I'll bring the focus of the question back to the session why everyone is here, is on spirituality. And I probably will start off with that. What's your take on meditation, and how is it linked to spirituality from your own experience?
Meditation is okay. Let's go back to the very well. Okay, I'm gonna go because I have to go back.
Okay, no problem.
It's like I say, because it was an evolving process.
Yes.
Before I started formally meditating. Yeah. Way back, probably when I was just a youth, 10, 11 years old, used to stand on my head, call myself meditate, but really did And last week there was two movies. I don't know if In Flint and Our Man Flint. And so anyway, these movies were made in 1965, 66. I'm thinking I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. But this guy, Flint, it was like a parody of James Bond, '007, blah, blah. So Flint, he was doing like yoga, meditation, slowing his heart rate down. He was a secret agent. And I said, oh gosh, that is cool. So I starting to delve into things then, as far as trying to slow my heart down and etc. Then moving on, say when I started in college, when I started, say that 1974, 50 years ago, that's when I formally started meditating. And just learned to talk to the different that auto regulation thing, slowing down. I like to start at my feet and work my way up to my head. So anyway, I got an excerpt from something that back in 1974, I looked back in my journal. You mind if I read it? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
let me see here. Okay, and okay, yeah, I'll be quick. Have you ever had a meditative out-of-body experience? So this is okay. My first meditative out-of-body experience was in 1974 at age 20. So that was 50 years ago. I was new to meditation, and while meditating, I found myself going deeper and deeper into space. I saw myself racing through the star-filled galaxy at warp speed, similar to what you would see on Star Trek. I was starting to get afraid and said to myself that I better come back, but then thought that there was nothing within me that would hurt me. I decided to proceed deeper and deeper into space, racing past the stars. A feeling of exhilaration and confidence overcame me once I returned, letting me know that the only limits we have in this outer world are the limits we place upon ourselves in our inner world. Oh. And that was my first out-of-body experience. It was scary. It was like I was at home in Washington, D.C., on my bed, and I started going up. That's why, into these stars. And then it was like Star Trek. The stars started going by me like swoosh, swoosh. And I was just moving through. And I was up there saying, I was going so far out in deep space, and I was saying, I better come back. I might not be able to find my way back. And then something came over me to calm me down and said, I have to believe that there's nothing inside of me to hurt me. And I allowed myself to go. But then I realized too that I have to be careful when I go into that state, because somewhere probably around there, one time my grandmother came into the room where I was in that deep state, and I could hear her in the background calling my name, but I didn't come back. And she almost had a heart attack because she thought I was dead. And after that, I realized I have to be careful when I'm around people when I go into that state, because you like to say, basically, I've truly left my body. And yeah, so anyway, that kind of puts that in perspective.
Wow. Okay. And that was at around age 25, that was your first astro traveling, ASTRO.
That was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, because matter of fact, because we had talked about this. I called it astro traveling because I was going in deep space. I didn't know anything about astro traveling then. I was just 20 years old, sophomore in college, sophomore going to my junior year in college. And then probably somewhere maybe 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, I saw some literature on astral traveling and some tapes, and I started going into that a little bit. However, when I started reading more about the astral traveling, I'm gonna jump back to say back when I was a little kid. Even though I was meditating, I used to do little mind jumps where I would close my eyes, meditate, and let's say I'm in Washington, D.C., but I might go to California, to Los Angeles. Matter of fact, the other night when I was meditating, I came to you in Singapore. I don't know if
Holy shit.
I don't know if you felt some vibes, but it was night before last. like before last, I said, let me see if this is, and I said, let me go to Singapore the other night. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I think you didn't find me because I'm not in Singapore. I'm in Penang right now. I'm in Malaysia. I'm so sorry. You should have told me.
I went to Singapore looking for you.
So cool. So cool. Okay.
No wonder I didn't find you. I was in Singapore looking for you. So anyway, coming back to that, yeah. So after the astral, okay, coming back to the astral, I like to go in deep space. The more I started finding out about astral, I like the good aspects of astral projection, astral traveling. However, I don't like some of the more earthly things. However, I'm not going, I don't desire to go with it. In a certain city, you just know on a certain side of town, maybe you don't go over there. If they were to come to me, I'm not going to be afraid of them. I'm just telling them to get away from me, in which I have growing up as a little kid. I used to see, I would turn around, and this goes back to Descartes. I remember in my basement, and I would turn around. I remember turning around one time, and there was a little old white lady sitting in the chair in my basement. I figured, what you see, and so I have no desire to be in that world. I'm not afraid of that world, but I'm not going and messing around in there. And so I go, so my travels into deep space and going into the quantum world. But there, in my opinion, there is an overlap of the dream world, the astral world, and the quantum. But my interest is to go into the quantum world and going out in deep space and energy space. That because that's what I equate the spirit is, that when we leave this animate, this body, this whole body, that we turn it into energy. And that way, then we can then leave our body, and then we can then travel into these different realms. Mm-hmm. And I like to travel into what I say, go quantum, into the quantum world. All right.
And just to define it a little bit more, is that when you do astral traveling, you actually have a choice of going to 3 places. You can go into the astral, you can go into deep space, or you can go into quantum. Is that right?
Or like you say, all 3 of them may very well encompass quantum. Mm-hmm. When you go with astro, that's when you start going into infinity in space, that starts moving into the quantum mechanics and so forth, and where space-time and all of that. That's, I have to see if somebody had put a question about past lives, past blah, blah, blah. But you go into a point when you into quantum where past, present, future all exist at the same time.
Yes. The time exists as a loop, right?
And that's so, but it's all relative. It's all relative to the observer. Yeah. And what I've been working on, the theory is going out deep enough space where I'm looking at the universe, where then you can. It's something that I'm still working on, trying to, because this is called kind of new area. I'm just now getting back into this. I've been in medicine for 40 years, and now I'm coming into this space-time and this quantum stuff and etc. And everybody's not ready for it. But it's to leave, where one can leave their body and go out into deep space, and then to be able to see where into this quantum world. With the space-time, it's just, I'm trying to see where to put it, where I'm still trying to fully comprehend. How does one comprehend the abstract?
Okay.
When you start trying to put the abstract and then try to comprehend it on this level, where we got the 3-dimensional, but then when you add time into it and all of that, and to be able to conceptualize all of that at the same time. And so that's where the TPC, the total perspective, because it all depends on the perspective of the observer. So when I'm close up on it, I'm seeing everything in this real world. So we got to go out here and see in this deep space. Then when I'm looking at this universe here, being able to see, maybe to split, to see the different aspect. So that's the way that it was, to my understanding, that all of this stuff exists all at the same time, the past, present, future, blah, blah, blah. And to visualize it like a loaf of bread. But each slice of the loaf of bread is everything that's happening in the universe at this particular point in time. However, if one is able to theoretically go out and to observe and then to cut at an angle, this angle will show different slides of something that's in the future. It depends on which angle you go. Say you go into let's say to the right. You'll probably go, say, from the present and then going backwards. You're going from it all depends on orientation too. Which way is future, which way is past. But when you're right up on it, your angles are close, and so you're going to see just the present. So you have to go way out infinity. This is my understanding. I'm still trying to comprehend this stuff now. Now it's deep. Anyway, I'll move on.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a little bit more advanced, but that's kind of where I am.
Thanks for sharing that.
To go out there to that, that's like that deep space.
Thanks for sharing that, because 𝗵𝘴 here, when he journeys into that space, he goes into deep space as well. So he'll probably can see a lot or learn a lot from what we're sharing here. But just to go back a little bit, I have two questions. Number one is that, what is your process to set up for astral traveling? That's my first question. How do you prepare to do it?
Okay.
Astral traveling.
Yeah. Let me see here, because I got something else from my journal. I could just, anyway, this was my theory that way back when I was a senior in college, when I was doing quantum mechanics and thermodynamics. And I was using this to explain my out-of-body experience. So this is probably about 1975, 76, 48, 49 years ago, was that we as a body, this body is held together by what? Chemical bonds. Chemical bonds. And chemical bonds requires force to hold it together. Therefore, and so I'm going back 50 years, because that was my theory, and I always said I wanted to come back to work on this theory. And so therefore, it's hard to leave this physical body because of I talk about energy. I equate the spirit to energy. It takes the spirit, the energy, spirit, blah, blah, that, because that's what would be required to move in the quantum world, is energy, electrons, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, what is meditation? To do what? To relax. Relaxation, it forces the bonds to hold us and theoretically relax enough to break these bonds. We then become nebulous, we become energy, we increase our entropy. And that was my theory, like I say, of leaving the body. That we get in such a relaxed state that we're able to theoretically break these bonds that hold us down, and we become pure energy to dissipate into the universe.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Those audience
that was me as a that was me back, and I always said I wanted to do some research in that to go further, but that kind of helped to explain what I was going through.
Yes,
and so basically so the more relaxed one can become, the easier it becomes to leave the body.
Yes,
because you're breaking those forces that, whenever I say come back to common sense. If you can break the forces that are keeping you hold and you can relax enough, then you release.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And my second question is that when we astral traveling, travel, other than perspective, right? What else, what sort of information, knowledge, or wisdom we can gather in that space? Do you visit like the Akashic records, or it's just that being there and you get downloads? How does the information come in for you? Do you look for it, or does it come naturally?
Both, but the thing is to go in asking, because like say you'll go where you have projected to want to go, but then not. It's a difficult balancing act, in my opinion. It's not to force it.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to go there, if it's not going there, don't get pressed to force it. But beforehand, and when I was younger, these things were a lot easier for me to leave. You know what I'm saying? I used to be able to leave that we. It's the thing where I could, like say, before I would go to sleep, I used to be able to determine what I wanted to dream about before I went to sleep. I used to get up as a kid, just say, call myself turning the channel. I would do that with my ear, say what I wanted to channel, and say, yeah, that's and those would be the dreams that I would have. And so that's the key, is to trust your success mechanism, that it'll take you where you're supposed to go. So don't force it. It's not to force it. Just trust it and allow that it'll take you where you want to go. And maybe where you're trying to go, maybe you're not supposed to go there. It's something that just sort of digress, but it's on a similar vein. As I started to put a post on this the other day, is that God, the divine, God's creator of the universe, blah, blah, that's over us, has given all of us a special gift for greatness. You don't have to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. I often like to say where I might have my server at a restaurant, and I can see that person is so happy, and they're this and they're doing that, and they got such great joy, and I might compliment them and say that you are a professional. Well, you really. And so this is what I found, is that we all have a special gift, and the key to our true success is knowing what that gift is. But what I found is that a lot of people don't necessarily want the gift that has been given to them by the divine power. They want the gift that they want. Which, like me, I might have a gift to be a good engineer. However, I want your gift. I want to be a good singer. So let's say I could be a great engineer, but just a all right singer. But that's what I want. I want the fame and all of that to be a great singer. And so that's what I'm pursuing. And one question say, why am I not being rewarded? And I look at it as just like when you give a gift to a person and they're not using it, how do you feel about that? When you, like, say you give a gift and that person comes back the next year and want another gift, and they haven't used the gift that you've already given. So I've written something that, I don't know, probably about 20, 25 years ago, and you shall fulfill your greatness when you fulfill your purpose. Because often that's what that gift that we have, it's all about one's true purpose. You should fulfill your greatness when you fulfill your purpose, and finding what that is. And there's something else. Let me see if I can remember that. What kind of goes to that same vein is when I've asked these, things that I say are things that I've all gone through for myself. And you might see me on Facebook. I'll say, for those that get it, for those that don't, I'm not worried about either you get it or you don't get it. These are if it works for you, then fine. If it doesn't, but this is another one. Is I've asked myself, I said, gosh, sometimes I could work so hard towards wanting something, and it's not happening. And I've realized, I said, after a lot of deep thought, I shall receive that which I desire when I'm ready to receive it. And a lot of times I realized that maybe I didn't get it because I wasn't ready to receive it, or maybe I wasn't supposed to have it. It's people have to, that's the whole thing about being honest with oneself. That's where, like I say, where it comes back from the beginning, what we were talking about is making sure that we're seeing life and seeing ourselves with true eyes. Mm-hmm. That's the key to all of this, is to see everything with true eyes, to make sure that I can think that I want something, but that's really not what I'm supposed to have. But that's what I see that I want, because maybe I'm not looking at it with true eyes. So it's
very important advice to, number one is learn what gifts are already given to us, and to embrace that gift and not want something else, because that is not what's not supposedly meant for us. And when we are able to realize that it's meant for us, that's the path to greatness. And I think that's a very wise advice, and I thank you for that. Okay, yeah, I open the floor to the audience to ask questions about astral traveling before I shift gears and go towards a different line of questioning. Anyone, 𝗵𝘴, Jazz, Sunita, or Man, you all have any questions? Please feel free to unmute yourself.
I have no questions, very insightful. I think first thing first, what is real is that, yeah, you got to be true to yourself and to your purpose. Yeah, it's a very good reminder.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. That's it. That's the key, is to be, that's because you all are making me go way back, but that was one of the first things back when I was 20 years old, and I had to look in the mirror. And I said, I have to make sure that I am honest with myself. I put the thing about love. You can appear to have everything, but if I was living life irresponsibly, recklessly, that's what made me take the change, because I was at a crossroad. And I said, anybody looking at me, you would have thought that, oh gosh, I love myself and this and that. I've had to say, if I did, then I would be taking things much more responsibly. And this is what my wife, this is 1974. One of the first things I asked, because that's what I realized, that I had said, if I don't party another, at 20 years old, I said, if I don't party another day in my life, I had already partied enough for a lifetime. I said, Lord, bring me a good woman. And guess what? She's downstairs right now. We've been together. We've been married about 40, 46, 47 years, but we met 50 years ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but that was one of the first things I realized. I said, in order for me, and okay, this is the wild thing. You talk about success. Everything that I have accomplished is what was, when I told you, when I was on the bed, astral traveling that very first time, everything, how they say, visualize the end point. I wasn't a doctor or a lawyer or attained all of these things then. I got up here, a beautiful family. I got 5 kids. All of them are doing wonderful, doctors, lawyers, highest levels of attainment in industry, government, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes, okay, you're going to like this one. When I'm meditating now, you all ready for it?
Yeah.
And I have to pinch myself and realize that this is 2024 and not 1974, that all the things that I had visualized, that I'm now here in 2024, and I'm not still on the bed in 1974. All those things that I visualized, that I desired, have come to reality. I had to pinch myself and say, oh no, this is, you talk about a time travel. It's, yeah. And I have to get up and say, no, I'm here. When you and I first met, and I said, no, I don't, my 70-year-old self is not going to go back to my 20-year-old self for advice. I said, my 20-year-old self have to come to my 70-year-old and give me advice. Remember I told you that?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
my 20-year-old, my wife says now, she said, when I first met you, you were so focused, you were so determined, you were so blah, 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 you were so mature, etc. It was like it was on point anyway.
Thank you for sharing that. You give all of us here so much hope. Yeah, thanks for that. 𝗵𝘴, let's hear from 𝗵𝘴.
Okay, just now Dr. Searles was saying that looking for the truth. When you find, how do you know that is the ultimate truth?
How do you know it's the ultimate truth? Okay, now that's the good one. That's the good one, because read Descartes' Meditations, and because this is the thing. What Descartes talk about is only through the deliberate doubt. So you take it through a process of doubting it as being the truth, so you can prove it is the truth. However, remember I said something but don't be so stuck. That allows you to start, because we don't want to be stagnant. We want to be moving. So you don't spend a lot of time with that, but you're willing to subject things to be open to say, suppose this isn't true. In order for it to be true, you have to prove that it's true, right?
Yes.
By asking the right questions. But if everything goes, then you say, okay, this is the truth. But then always being open that there may be new evidence and things that come in the future that show. So don't be so stuck that all of the stuff, let's see, this is where it goes quantum. All of the stuff could be an illusion, but I can't tell that to everybody because that scares them. But that's the key to being able to handle and to navigate, is to realize that all of this could be an illusion. But this is the key thing. Was also back in 1974, I took a course in computer programming, Fortran. And it's how they talk about pivoting and all that and so forth. In our decision making, I can write a program for myself to guide me to my endpoint. Because that's what when you're writing the computer program, you got your starting point, and then you got where you want to go. And then you got to figure out through all of your whatever, your flow charting and your code and all of that. So usually you're making me go back 50 years trying to remember my computer programming. But you get to those decision points. And this is what I found as far as any of my decision points along the way, how to make sure that I'm making the right decisions. And the foundation of, I got something what I call 10 principles for success, blah, blah. But the number one principle, you might have seen it on Facebook last week, or might have been this week, is to love yourself. If all of your decisions are based on not that selfish, conceited type love, but the divine love that you deserve, you have to truly believe, I deserve to have what I want out of this life. When I was a little kid, I was the big thing that people used to try to tell me, and people say you can't have your cake and eat it too, and I used to always say, why not? I always thought I was supposed to have everything I want. Why not? Why not? And that's what you should be saying. Why not? Why can't I have it all? But like you say, if you love yourself, you will make the right decisions based on the truth that you have at that time. The truth because that to me, that should be the ultimate goal in life, is to work our way to the truth. The truth could possibly just be an evolving process.
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah, the truth could be an evolving process. Yeah.
Because time is impermanent, so everything is changing.
Yep, so that's kind of it. Yeah, now I wasn't going, because this here is advanced, but you want to hear my quantum theory to go beyond limitless?
Sure.
And plug it into the infinite intelligence?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. I'm still working on this. I probably wrote this maybe about 5 years ago. Let me see here.
We are slated for.
Okay, my quantum theory to go beyond limitless, plugging into the infinite intelligence power source. Let go all your fears. Allow yourself to be totally open. Accept that nothing may be true, accept that anything is possible, then proceed to travel to that place deepest within you that approaches infinity, where only the bravest dare go. Those people are a little afraid to go there. And I don't advise that everybody go there. I say only the bravest dare go. You know what I'm saying? And remember that thing I had to, when I was going out there, and I had to tell myself, I have to believe there's nothing inside of me to hurt me. But to be willing to go where only the bravest dare go. And then once we start moving into that spiritual world, okay, this you say I could keep going on and on. But this is the one that gets me when we talk about faith. What is faith? Faith is trusting, believing, and knowing, right? This is the power of faith. What did Jesus Christ say? If you had the faith the size of a mustard seed, you could tell that yonder mountain over there to move, and it would move. And he was talking to man when he said that. That's the thing, is like you say, when we get into that spiritual and that faith thing, because I don't know if I shared with you the limits. This is something that I wrote and I shared with a group of athletes, but this is something that I've always lived by. The limits of my capabilities are only bounded by the limits of my imagination and my faith. And your faith, I already told you what Jesus said about your faith. You tell that mountain to move. If your faith is strong enough, and anything that you put in, the limits of your capabilities only bounded by the limits of what? Your imagination. So boom. And then you got the faith and the courage to go after it. What can I say?
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm proud of you, young guys. See, I'm old. I'm up here 70 years old now, and had some health issues, and those dark forces trying to slow me down. These last 2 years have been rough on me. Yeah, I'm probably only working on about 50%. You should see me when I'm at 100%.
And your 50% is already 100% for so many people. I would believe so. Yeah.
So it can be well, but when I'm revving up, I'm keeping the faith. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just worried that I booked Dr. Anthony Searles for an hour and we have gone past that. So I want to respect his time. I know we have a lot of burning questions. And if you all want Dr. Searles back and you would love to have him back, please type yes into the chat. So you let him know that we would love to hear from him again. Yeah, please type yes into the chat. And thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Anthony Searles. And the amount of wisdom you shared with us today is like enough for me to go on for the next few months, just pondering those things that you shared with us. And would you have just one last piece of advice that we will give everyone here? What would you like to share? One last piece of advice for us.
One last piece of advice is just to go forward. You got unlimited potential. You can do anything. This is the one last piece. What I found important. You know how we always talk about to know what you want, to focus on the end point. And this is what I found is that, let's say I'm at the starting point now, and I'm going after a goal. I have a clear vision in fine detail of what it is I want to do, the end point. And I keep my focus. You remember, like I say, it's all relative to the observer or before I get up here and start moving towards it. I call that, once I move towards it, I'm moving into a whole nother universe, a whole nother matrix. And once I move into there, I become totally disoriented. I don't know, upside down, left, this, that. But when you're in that orientation, you don't know that you're disoriented. So the key thing is to keep a clear view of the endpoint goal, so you can always stay focused on it, so that you're not being distracted by all of these other things that are coming at you. And that way you can stay on target, pivot as one needs to based on Your decision making being, am I showing love for myself? Not a selfish love, but a love that I desire to have that which I desire. Anyway, that might not be as clear as I wanted to make it, but that's it. I would always I would get up here and say, but before I stepped into actually moving towards my goal, I would be totally fixed, because I would call it moving into the matrix once I started moving in there, because I didn't know what kind of distractions, disorientation. When you're in deep space, you don't know if you're upside down or what's left or right, and so that's the way I look at when I'm moving in towards once I start moving towards the goal, that way my goal remains fixed.
Mm-hmm.
That way I can stay on my goal and not be distracted by all the other stuff that's going on.
Focus.
But anyway, I love to see what you young guys, y'all are impressing me. You're giving me some, but I'm just keeping the faith myself, and yep, that's it. Total perspective concept. It's making sure you're seeing everything from the true perspective, and that's a difficult thing. That, in my opinion, that's the hardest thing, is to make sure that we're seeing the true. And that's where I got total perspective concept. It's because everything that comes to us comes through our senses. And that's what Descartes in his meditations, how often have your senses fooled you?
Mm.
How often have they deceived you?
Mm.
And so that lets you know you can't trust your senses. So you got to go have a process of checking to make sure everything's cool. Anyway, thank you. I enjoyed it already.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we totally enjoyed it. And if you all like to find Dr. Anthony Searles, he's on Facebook. And also his Facebook group is called Total Perspectives. And that's what he has been talking and sharing with us today, about considering things from all perspectives. And that's the way that you can get closer to truth. Although that truth is an evolving process, but that's the way to it. Yeah. And thank you so much, Searles, for sharing your wisdom with us today. And yeah, and just now, Sunita says, yes, please come back. Jess says, yes, please come back. Man says, yes, please come back. And yes, and we'll totally love to have you share your wisdom with us again. Yep. And with that, thanks so much.
Well, thank you all. You'll take care. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. Okay. Good. Have a great Sunday ahead.
Already, you too now. Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.